ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the September 8th edition of Beyond the Headlines. My name is Colin Dowe, and I'm certainly pleased that you have chosen to join us this Monday evening. As I always say, you're the ones that make this program happen. So whether you're looking at us on GBN television, listening in on GBN radio, or logged on to any of our social media platforms, welcome and thank you. And this evening, we're grappling with a very important issue, as this month, September, we are recognizing suicide prevention. It is a Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and we're going to have this conversation. It is time to break the silence. So the theme of this evening's presentation is indeed breaking the silence. And with me is Mr. Josh Hector from the Ministry of Health. Josh, welcome.
Thank you so much, Colin. Pleasure to be here. Ministry of Mental Health.
Ministry of Mental Health. Yes, yes. Please to have that correction and distinction. All right, Minister Thomas would have squeezed my neck, having gotten that one wrong. And Mr. Pearson Stroude, yes. I can say Ministry of Education, and I don't have to give all of the other accolades.
I'm good. Ministry of Education.
Excellent, gentlemen. Welcome.
Thank you.
And it is a pleasure to have you join us as we discuss this important issue. And Josh, if I am to begin with you, what is this Suicide Awareness Prevention Month? What is it about?
So Suicide Prevention Awareness Month really began around 2008 and has continued annually since then. It's really a month when people honor the lives of those who have died by suicide, as well as a result of these lost lives, promote awareness, prevention tips and strategies, and also promote resilience in their communities.
Okay. Who started this this drive towards the awareness?
That is something I've been looking for. I've been looking to...
So I'm not going Grenada yet, internationally. This is not a Grenada thing. So.
Right. Internationally, I've been trying to pin it on a specific group. I haven't found anything concrete just yet. I do know that the WHO, for example, is leading as far as the data, the global data is concerned.
Okay.
And through the WHO, we have been able to recognize that suicide accounts for at least 800 and something thousand deaths a year. And when you think about it, that swallows up our population.
No, we can't. Yeah, we can't make that comparison.
Let's not even correct, right? It's quite a lot of lives that are lost annually by suicide.
Okay, and on the Grenada context, there are lots of things that happen internationally. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to embrace it, but we have adopted.
Right.
Why?
Yeah, and we have adopted it because based on how close-knit our population is, just by virtue of the size, every suicide is one too many. Really. Everyone is going to impact a lot of people just based on the ripple. And then, of course, we have the whole idea of persons who are on the edge also being prompted by a suicide to go do so themselves, right? And so prevention has to be something that we promote, not just for the month of September, but we have to be quite continuous about promoting prevention.
Okay. I mean, and I think you touched on, because I was about to ask you what is the relevance to Grenada, but you seem to be leaning into our population size, one, and two, that the suicide doesn't only impact the person who is successful in the act, but families, friends, communities. Share with us a little bit on the trends or data that we have collected within the Ministry of Mental Health, just in broad strokes. I don't expect you to be able to rattle off everything off the top of the head.
And I like that question. I like that question, and I want to delve into what we will do to bridge the data gap that exists, because there are a number of steps that we have already identified which need to be taken. So for example, if there is a death by suicide, who is going to code the death, so that we have an accurate representation. Because, for example, if a pathologist goes in, they may say asphyxiation. Right? But asphyxiation because
nobody says hanging.
No one,
as opposed to my mother strangled me because I didn't wash the waist.
Right. So the pathologist is not going to say hanging.
Right.
They're going to say asphyxiation. And so we have to properly code these deaths, not just because we are looking for suicide data, but should suicides occur, we want to make sure that we have an accurate representation of the numbers, which will then influence policy.
Right. So are you suggesting now that you have been operating, or we as Grenada have been operating on anecdotal data almost, in that we guess that there have been 3, 5, 7 annually, but there's nothing saying coming out of a pathology report that is the case?
Right. So to be fair, I don't want to say that it's entirely anecdotal, because there are suicides that are properly coded, but more can be done.
Okay, so there is coding. So are we saying that there isn't mandatory coding? I'm just trying to get a sense. So that
right. So that may be the case more than the complete absence of coding.
Okay.
Right. We need all the people at the various data entry points to provide the data, to be mandated to do so.
All right.
Essentially.
This might be a strange question, but who commits suicide? I know you have the struggle with the data, but even if it's anecdotal, are we able to identify? Because this is where when we start having interventions, we first need to know who's at risk.
Yes.
So
yes.
Who commits suicide?
You know, people commit suicide, but what we have seen, and of course I'll pass the baton over to Mr. Pearson quite swiftly, is that men tend to be more successful as far as completion is concerned, whereas women may have more attempts. Men tend to somehow get straight to the point.
Okay. Is that the explanation, or only explanation? When I ask the question, who commits suicide? Just share in terms of your own insights. Yes.
I think one of the things that we have to make sure that we keep, I guess, foremost in our mind is that persons don't just wake up every day and say, I'm going to commit suicide. We are talking about persons who have, in most cases, persons who may have attempted but did not get to complete. When you assess them, when you talk to them, when they are in a place where they are willing to and they are able to speak, a lot of those persons, you get insight from them that there are people who really honestly have come to the place where they really genuinely feel that there is no other way, that they are at a place of hopelessness. So that's one of the things, that the people who commit suicide tend to be people who feel that they are hopeless. They feel that they've exhausted all the options available to them, and that they see that as the only resort that they have left. The only thing that I think we need to maybe press as we're talking about education here is that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and I think that's one of the issues that we have to really send that message home. That we are trying to fix an issue within ourselves, but we are using a permanent means to do that. It doesn't give you an opportunity to address it in another way, and I think that's one of the things that we have to really press home. That we send that message to anybody listening tonight, that it is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. There's nothing new under the sun. Nothing lasts forever. There are realities that all of us have to go through that are very, very difficult. But the truth is, and if we use that particular methodology, there is no escape really. That's, unless maybe you do not get to complete, and that is something that we have to be cognizant of. In terms of the points you were making about who, and I think that's one of the issues that we have to pay attention to. Men generally use methods that are more finite or definite in terms of completion. So they tend to use the more drastic methodologies. And so, unfortunately, they tend to be the ones who will complete more often.
Let me ask you this. I'm trying to, as I drill down on the population, you said men,
Yes.
Josh said men. Is it men or is it males? And I'm trying here now to tease out whether, as we look at these populations, whether there are age ranges that might be more vulnerable.
Okay, so while at this time, most of the statistics show somewhere between ages 25 and about 45, that is where there tends to be, in the male population, that tends to be that success ratio in terms of completion. That will be where it mostly lies. One of the things that we have to also remember and keep in mind as well is that we have to look at our younger population coming up, because as Mr. Hector would have spoken to, is that we have to be careful that we're not sending a message, especially by when we have completions, when we have these suicide completions, that we're not sending a message that hey, this is a way of escape. And unfortunately, that's one of the messages that are sent when we have those completions. I recently, I think there's some information, not in Grenada, again, as Mr. Hector would have spoken to, we don't have that detailed type of registration in terms of suicide, but Jamaica, Barbados, and I think it was Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad. I was looking at some statistics, and close to 15% of the people who attempt suicide tend to be people who are under 25. No, that's a serious issue. That means we're talking about people who are at university to secondary school level. That's a serious problem. And so we have to be cognizant that is also a population that we have to pay attention to, because they may be looking on at the older population and saying, well, they did it, I did.
And this actually is where I wanted to go next. Trends that you have seen, and if we don't have it for Grenada, I'll appreciate it Caribbean-wide, because we may very well be reflective within our Grenada situation, what we're seeing there. So I'm going to switch a little bit from suicide to self-harm, and hence make the distinction here between success, lack of success,
completion,
or escalation. Which might be a case, right? So, is there any data or trends that we are aware of, Grenada or otherwise, where cases of self-harm is being reported? So it might be suicidal attempt, it might be cutting behaviors, it might be something. Any data on this at all?
I can't speak to data per se, but okay, so Mr. Hector can speak to data, but I would like to chime in when you're finished on some of the anecdotal stuff that we need to pay attention to.
It is going to be anecdotal, because at this point, our system is really set up to treat with people who have attempted or people who are now extremely suicidal, because these are the ones who are going to end up at the General Hospital or the Mount Gay Psychiatric Hospital.
So responding to crises.
Right, responsive to crises. Those who are hidden, which is where now a mechanism that I'm going to talk about a bit later on, which is mental health module being embedded in the National Health Information System, so that when our non-communicable diseases are the bulletin is going out, we can see these mental health trends. For now, the people who are whose situations have not become complicated as yet, they are cutting in silence, for example. From an anecdotal standpoint, I believe that we see more females engaged in this practice than males. Cutting, it's far more popular among females.
Okay. Pearson?
Yeah, well, you kind of went to the place where I was wanting to go, because the reality is that we have that issue, and we've noticed that within the female population, within our girls, even within the school system, we've come across that, and that one of the things that they use now, the truth is, and this is one of the where a lot of the the conflict or the dissonance comes with it, because in a lot of cases when you work with young people like that, what they tell you is that they don't feel that they have control over their lives. They're choosing to do that because it's the one option that they can implement for which they have control over, right. And it gives them a sense of control. So I'm cutting, and I know I will choose when to cut, and I will cut where I want to cut, and those kind of things, because it's about me controlling my pain. That we've come to the place where there is so much pain, unfortunately, within our youth population, that some persons have come to the conclusion that so many people are causing me pain that I'm going to choose the pain that I want to have, and I'm going to control it by doing that. And we have to really seriously address that within our youthful population, understanding, because one of the things that we also have to pay attention to is that when we do have completions, one of the things that we do find is that there tends to be copycatting. So whenever that gets broadcast or people know about it and it's all over the place, glorified. It's almost like giving me permission to do it too. Right. And we tend to, there tends to be a spike. Even our school population, there tends to be a spike of children coming forward and saying, I wanted to do that too, and that happens pretty often. So that the completions that exist and that are made public almost gives them permission to try to, and that's something that we have to pay attention to.
I'm going to come back to population again in terms of the who. And the who now, we touched a little bit on gender, and we said methodology might really be the explanation there. And while we would see 25 to 45 being larger in numbers, male, the Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica stats, say about 15% of the youth population is actually youth people, population. Our secondary into university education students.
That age group there.
I'm drilling again in terms of the who. What are some of the reasons from your engagement? Let's start off with self-harm, and we could end, and we can't interview the person who was successful. So from the self-harm perspective, what are some of the explanations you may have heard for this behavior? I got control, but right. But as you dig deeper, what are some of the things that you want to
lack of control, helpless, a sense of helplessness, a sense of wanting to be the one to make the final exit on my own terms, a sense that persons feel that they have no other alternative, feeling that they are not appreciated.
That's it. I want to drill down, because helplessness, hopelessness, wanting control, those seems like global terms. In a practical sense for our audience, what brings about hopelessness? What brings about this feeling of not having control over one's life? What are some of the practical things so that we can be aware and we can actually adjust our own behaviors?
So truthfully, you have legitimate instances of hopelessness and helplessness because of a situation a person is confronted with, whether it be academic struggles, legitimate academic struggles, financial struggles, relational struggles. And then you have also helplessness and hopelessness that is self-inflicted based on a person's perspective on life. One of the things we do recognize, it's important to note that a suicidal thought, an isolated suicidal thought, does not automatically equal suicidal ideation, which is more persistent. And often when it is persistent, you find that people also have a narrative that they've built around a goal that they would like to achieve, and if they do not achieve this, then they cannot be happy ever in life, and there is no alternative. And once they become very rigid in such a way, then that is where suicidal ideation steps in. And of course, the longer it lingers, the closer they get to that point. Now, by the time a person finds themselves in a crisis, our first question shouldn't be, why are they suicidal? It should be, how far gone are they? Because we want to stabilize them first immediately. We want to measure for dangerousness. And when I say that, people say dangerousness, yes, because a person becomes dangerous to themselves.
Right.
So that we would treat with first before we delve into why they've gotten to that point.
Okay. So you're looking more at where you are, assessing where you are, as opposed to why you are where you are.
Okay.
Because if we really were to spend time on finding out why, we're still at a place where that person has not been able to then address. In terms of the therapist, from a therapeutic perspective, you want to be able to get to the place where at least we can stop, or at best case scenario, or at least postpone your intention.
Right.
So the idea is to say where you are and be able to do whatever therapeutic work with you to be able to say, all right, okay, so this is where you are. How come you've come to this place? And that's the methodology we would go, and we step back.
So, Colin, I want to do something that might be strange. I want to ask you a question. What personality traits might you associate more with suicidal attempts?
That's a difficult question to answer, because I do not necessarily believe that it is limited to a particular person. I know if we go in socioeconomic and that kind of thing, it translates, it goes across, it transcends all of that. It is difficult for me to answer because I can't pin it down to a particular trait. And I would suspect if we could have, then life would be easy, because we're then able to say, this personality trait would be more suicidal, let's put all our energies on here.
Well, interestingly, research has found that there are a couple personality traits that tend to lend themselves to that type of behavior. Perfectionism, having to always have it right, so that when I make a mistake or when I fail at something, I'm at risk.
Right.
Fearlessness, because it takes extreme courage to harm oneself or even end one's life, as well as negativity, right? Now, if you have those three, then that's a deadly cocktail.
My cup must always be filled to the brim under my control.
Right.
My cup is never full, even though if it is filled. And then the open abandonment is what you're saying. Those personality traits would be.
You put those three together and you basically have a cocktail for serious issues in an individual.
Okay. How will one identify? I mean, I don't know. I mean, wanting to do well don't necessarily translate into my being a perfectionist. One ought to be striving to do well consistently. So how can we say that that attempt is problematic and can lead to one becoming, in terms of the idealization of suicide? If failing, of course. If you're succeeding, I guess all is nice and dandy, or you probably just raise the bar. And then you're never satisfied. And I think that's probably part of the issue. Achieving perfection or not achieving perfection is the challenge.
Well, never being satisfied is not as significant as being in a position where there is no room for error. Because I can strive to do better and better each day, because I am never satisfied with the level. I'm never satisfied with what I have attained thus far. But while I am in transit, if there is no room at all for a shortcoming, then that can become problematic.
Because if I'm climbing a mountain, I want to get to the top of the mountain, but I may slip and fall. That does not necessarily mean that I won't get to the top of the mountain. I'm going to get up, I'm going to go again. But that meant that particular orientation says that if I fall, that's it.
That's the end of the story.
That's the end of the story. That I will never get there because I fell. It doesn't mean that. It just means that you fell, get up, and we're going to continue going. And that's the difference, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways that we attempt to address mental health issues? I'm going broad strokes now in Grenada.
All right, so of course we do know of the Mount Psychiatric Hospital. And again, let us be reminded that only people who are severely mentally ill end up admitted to the psychiatric hospital, and that remains a very small percentage of any population. Then you have people who are on lower ends of the pyramid who require outpatient care. And so apart from the psychiatric hospital, there is mental health. There are mental health clinics in the communities. So every first Wednesday, St. David's Health at Bellevue Health Center. Every second Wednesday, St. Andrew at Grand Bras. Every third, the Polyclinic in Guave serves St. Mark and St. John. Every Thursday, the Mount Gay Psychiatric Hospital has an outpatient clinic, and then every first Friday in Carriacou. Now,
I didn't hear St. Patrick, don't get in trouble.
Sotes, sorry. Sotes,
thank you very much.
The fourth.
Tuesday, I think.
I'm tripping over myself, but yes, there's a clinic in Sotes as well.
So at least once per month.
Once per month.
In every parish.
Every parish.
There is outpatient attention being given.
Yes.
Okay.
More recently, we have recognized that it's not enough, and quite frankly, we're pushing towards fully integrating mental health care at the primary care level, just for access. But more recently, the psychiatric hospital deploys a team to the communities to meet with patients, not just at the clinic. And because of this, we have seen a significant reduction in the admissions at the hospital.
Okay. Would you say, open question and to a Grenadian, that mental health is a priority in Grenada?
More than ever, no. But I think it is a matter of getting the population to consider it a priority, because reasonably I think that the population at large is part of the mental health system, instead of the hospital being the mental health system, quote unquote. And if everyone recognizes mental health as a priority, it means that they will prioritize self-care, and we begin to promote help-seeking behaviors that also will involve a significant reduction in stigma and discrimination, so that we normalize mental health. We have made significant strides, and those strides are accounted for privately. For the persons who are practicing psychology, for example, they can tell you, including myself, that between 2016 and now, if you look at averaging one client a week, now people have schedules that are quite busy, because more people are open to the idea of receiving mental health care. But we still have a lot more work to do.
How much do you believe in terms of breaking that stigma, because it is important, government creating a Ministry of Mental Health, and how has that, if it has been impactful, how has it translated into, one, stigma reduction, and two, greater access for the population?
So, for example, now because of the Ministry of Mental Health, the increased services in the community, for example, that has come out of the Ministry of Mental Health. And so we have the data to show a reduction in the patients at the hospital, simply because people are not being left alone for their situations to complicate.
Okay.
That is one of the more direct ways we can actually point to a significant result. Apart from that, everything else is still a bit anecdotal, and we just have to keep on forging ahead to make sure we see those changes.
I'm going to ask a question that may seem strange, but is suicide always a mental health issue? And this is going, when we speak of mental health, and Josh did it, his first response is, we have monkey, right? We go to that extreme. And I'm curious, as we look at suicide and suicide attempts,
right,
is it always a mental health issue? And I deliberately pose the question the way I pose it.
Those are actually considered psychiatric emergencies because of the measure of duress a person has to be under for logic to step aside and leave room for them to actually harm or kill themselves.
Right.
Yes, it might not always signify a mental illness, the existence of a mental illness.
Right.
It could be an acute episode, but it is in fact always a mental health issue.
Okay. And is it, from your experience, these successful attempts, is it typically a first time, or is it an escalation? What do we see normally within the population?
Rarely a first time.
Rarely a first time.
Rarely a first time.
Okay.
The persons that, especially some of the persons who have God, in God's grace, did not get to complete. And you realize that after you work with them, you realize that this was not the first time that they would have attempted. Okay. This was just the time that they were able to go further than before. And the ideation has been something that they've been struggling with for some time. Okay. And there have been various attempts before. It's just something we have to get to the place where we help persons to understand themselves. Self-awareness is a really serious issue that we have to pay attention to within our communities. Mental health, the whole idea, and again the point that you were making with the fact that our policymakers made a decision to have a ministry of mental health, I think has signaled that persons in authority understand the importance of us making the mental health aspect of our lives something that we should pay closer attention. And I think that's really a plus for us.
Okay, all right. For us, yeah. Viewers and listeners, it's time for our first break, so we'll take our commercial break and we'll be back tackling this issue and breaking the silence. We'll be back shortly.
Need to check your bill balance? Use the Grenlec mobile app. Open the Grenlec mobile app and tap the icon labeled Balances at the bottom of the screen. View your bill details, including your current bill balance, the due date by which you must settle your bill, the amount and date of the last payment you made. It's quick, easy, and available 24/7. Convenience at your fingertips.
Welcome to Caracou, small in size, rich in spirit. As you step off the boat, you're greeted by smiling faces and warm island vibes. Your adventure begins here. Need a cozy place to stay? The Mermaid Beach Hotel has been a favorite for years. Waterfront views, clean comfort, and located in the town. In Bogles, the Roundhouse Cottages offers rustic charm with a touch of elegance. A peaceful hideaway surrounded by nature. Prefer something private? Dowe Island Villas gives you space, sea breeze, and a home away from home feel. Wake up to the sound of waves and views that stretch for miles. We're ready to welcome you. When are you coming?
Are you longing to taste authentic, flavorful dishes from Thailand? Then look no further. Konthai, the newest restaurant located at the back of Galleria Mall top floor, is the place to satisfy your taste buds for Thai dishes that are well seasoned with fresh local spices. They offer a great selection of sumptuous dishes that will tantalize your taste buds. Visit Konthai today because the food is good, the ambiance is great, and the staff friendly. Available on Bites and Yogo Grenada. For more information, call 456-0074 or visit konthaigrenada.com or stop by the new Galleria Mall, Grand Anse St. George. I'll meet you there. Asian Spa and Wellness Cafe, nestled in the serene surroundings of Le Phare Bleu, Calivini Bay, St. George, is the perfect spot to unwind and relax after a stressful event or when you wish to spoil yourself in the most comfortable and relaxing atmosphere. They offer many different massage modalities, including thigh hammer, washer and cupping, signature thigh deep tissue massage, also facials to depuff and tighten pores, deep cleanse full body, hair and nail treatments and more. Take a walk down to the cafe for authentic Thai breakfasts and delicious traditional dishes. Choose from our special mixed drinks, both hot and cold. Opens daily. Visit Asian Spa and Wellness Cafe today, Le Phare Bleu, Calivini Bay, St. George, because you will not regret you did.
Remind yourself what life is all about. Adventure awaits in the all-new Photon Tunnel G7. Expand your lifestyle, your boundaries, your imagination. Find yourself in places where no one else can. Backed by our class-leading warranty and a national dealership network, you now have the confidence to go further. The all-new Photon Tunnel G7. Expand your lifestyle.
Distributed by Echo Blue Limited. Visit us on the Lansopine Main Road or call 405-4818.
Ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for rejoining us. We're breaking the silence as we reflect during this month of Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. This is the month of September. Josh, you started going there, but I just would want to ask the question again. What are some of the services available to individuals who are contemplating suicide? That's one question. But as importantly, because these people probably, the reason why they get there is that they're not, if they saw an alternative, they would have taken it, all right? But they're not. So what are some of the services that are available to them? But also, as in answering that, if you can move on to some of the services or pointers, directions you will give to families and friends who may be aware that an individual is contemplating this step.
So let me flip the script and start lower down in the pyramid. Because the last time I spoke, I started on the very tip, which was psychiatric services at the hospital, right? There are an increasing number of private practitioners who practice psychology, counselors, psychologists. There's an increasing number, and right now in Grenada, people may find that it's not difficult. If you go on Google even and you type in psychologist in Grenada, you're going to find a list of people who are ready and available to help, right? And let's reserve the specialized psychiatric care for people who are no longer in control of themselves, right. And they need to be monitored.
So we're emphasizing primary health care here. and preventive measures as opposed to responding to someone in crisis. Let's not let them go there.
Yes, correct. Right. And so people need to know that you can discreetly make a call to a practitioner and seek the help that you need, instead of waiting for it to complicate. And once you end up in crisis, then it becomes a lot more problematic.
2 questions on here. We started earlier in the first segment recognizing Grenada's smallness.
Yes.
Is that a problem with people seeking help? And where I'm going here would be confidentiality and confidence.
Okay. So I know I can vouch for myself and my colleague, Mr. Stroude, as far as confidentiality is concerned. And we both may have heard reports of breached confidentiality. I don't know if I have an answer or just a comment, because I believe it is important for everyone who is a helping professional to recognize the moral and legal obligations they have. The ethical obligations. And so you must first be confidential as a person. First of all, it's just a part of who you are. And then it becomes easier to do so professionally, because there's a person behind every professional. And the more this is promoted, the more it is experienced and felt, people are definitely going to be more open to seeking help, because it is a concern based on the size of our population. Okay. We can't dispute that.
I think one of the things that, just before you come in, but one of the things that I know the Ministry of Health and now Ministry of Mental Health has done to try to address some of that is to the licensure process of counselors being licensed, getting licensed. Right. So you have to answer to a licensing agency, so that if a person really unfortunately goes to the place where they break confidentiality, that becomes an issue.
What is the reporting mechanism? Because breaking confidentiality, the license board, I don't know how often you have to be reassessed, relicensed, whether it's annually.
Every 3 years.
Every 3 years.
Every 3 years.
Yeah.
And then the other question is that I know for public officials there's the ombudsman. Who do we report an allegation of breach to?
You see, I think the challenge is that when there is a breach, typically, instead of reporting officially, people just...
We gossip and we put it on Facebook.
Gossip and we put it on
right.
Facebook.
So that's why I'm asking the question. If there is an allegation of a breach that comes to my attention, for example, where do I go? What do I do?
So the Allied Health Professionals Council, they are the body within the Ministry of Health that would provide licenses for psychotherapists, psychologists. And so you can contact the Allied Health Professionals Council to report breached confidentiality.
Okay, all right. Pearson, how do we overcome the fact that I know you in GBSS, I used to rap you, or we pitch marbles together.
Yeah.
And now I have to come and sit in front of you and share my innermost, deepest thoughts. What do you say to that individual listening out there? How do you overcome that fear and taking this step? Because there's also the cultural challenge, because it's not part of our normal operations.
Okay, so we recognize the smallness of us, but just as how when we are trained as therapists, you're basically told ethically you don't work with your family. That's why you have a referral pathway. There are enough practitioners on the ground that I can say to you, I would refer you to this person, because this person would be able to give you a more objective view. Because when I work with you, as you rightly said, we used to pitch marbles together. Right. I'm not looking at you in that way. You're almost basically family. So that's where we use the referral pathways in a sense. So Mr. Hector would call me and say, Mr. Stroude, listen, I need you to work with this person, because based on the relationship we have, I'm not the best person to work with. And it's something that we do. We work in that way through through the process. But one of the things that we have to also keep in mind is that as practitioners, and I think that's one of the things that we have to keep in mind, is that we have to protect this whole idea of mental health and the profession of, especially of those who are working in mental health, to address some of the issues, because the stigma of mental health and seeking help in mental health is already such an issue. People have a tendency, and some of the statistics indicate that that's one of the main reasons why people do not reach out. Right. That's one of the main reasons why people do not ask for help, because of the stigma that is attached to being known for having a mental health illness.
And the perception is that you're weak.
You're weak, you
right.
can't handle your business and whatever the case might be, and you're going to pink house. And I mean, that's where we are, and that's unfortunately where we are. But again, that's where it comes on us as practitioners to make sure that we protect that the clients that we work with, to give them the understanding that this is not about weakness. This is, in fact, this is about strength. It takes a lot of strength to be able to step up and say, I need help.
Correct.
It takes a lot of strength. This is not about weakness. This is the exact opposite. It takes a lot of strength to say, especially as a man, because, you know, culturally we grew up in this sense that we got to take care of everybody and the rest of it. But for a man to be able to stand up and say, I need help, that's a really big one. And that's where the strength really lies, and to be able to admit that I have an issue, that I need help, and to step up and do that. But so that's not weakness. That's actually true strength.
Okay. Josh, I'll give you an opportunity to make an appeal. So what if you will be granted 2 wishes in relation to tools you need to assist you in doing your work within the Ministry of Mental Health? I will stick there, or you can even go private practice. Just 2 things that you wish you had in Grenada that would assist in making your job easier.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the mission.
I just want to tell you, $500 million US, and then deal with the rest.
But you see, if I give you the $1 million US, you might retire. And we can't afford for that.
No, that's not my money. That would be government money, right? But truthfully, right now, immediately, the infrastructure that would allow for ongoing mental health care at the primary care level. All the personnel that is needed,
the human resource,
to the fullest extent, the machinery and software that's needed so that we can properly gather the data. We are going to see this significantly reducing admissions at the psychiatric hospital, as much as we're seeing now that the community visits are doing so. In Belize, they've been able to close the psychiatric hospital altogether.
Wow.
Right? Simply because of the strength of the community mental health program.
Okay. There is interest, so I'm going to do something that is not normal. We're going to open the phone lines from now. Okay. All right? Typically, we wait until a lot later. 440-1252. I'll continue. We have a caller online already. Go ahead, caller. Good evening.
Yes, good evening to you. And good evening to the guests.
Good evening.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are hearing you. Listen to the telephone and go ahead, please.
So, good show, good topic. But I'm concerned, I will say, number one, with respect to the stress that people are going through, diet. I'll put the number 1, diet. And I will say the society has gone overboard, and it seems as though we doesn't have anybody to solve the social problem. I remember a few years ago I raised these questions with the Social Services Division, and I pointed to the society sitting on a social time bomb. Too much suicide and too much of these delinquencies and exist in our society. And I was told that they only had 1 psychologist, 1 qualified psychologist then, and I recommended a psychologist in every primary and secondary school. Now I think today it's much better, but you see the damage already done, and there is too much stress in the society. What is causing the stress? We have to nail it down. Young people is under tremendous stress. The adults is under tremendous stress. But what is causing the stress? And I will put some of the blame on our leaders and our managerial system. Yeah? Our leaders and managers need to do much better to identify these things very early and to take corrective measures. We have an economic problem that is causing the social breakdown, and we're failing to identify that. That's why I talk from time to time and talk about the growth and development of the economy, pertinent to putting everybody to work so we'll have a financial ability to deal with our problem, to prevent us from breaking down that far.
Right.
But we are a long way down. Yes, I heard of Mr. Josh Hector. I think I interacted with his sister, and I understand he's a great man. I listened to him very well. Yes, he's a great guy, apart from what I heard tonight. But we need much more than him, and we need the support. For instance, the jobs, the salaries, wages.
Thank you very much for that, caller. Thank you. So we heard an appeal joining you in the need for additional human resource, which was one wish. Your second wish was one of other types of resources, because you mentioned things like the software, etc., which will allow monitoring and hence early interventions, which will prevent some of the crises. Interestingly, the caller spoke to stress and zeroed in on economic stress. Not being able to make it is how I'd probably interpret that. And as a stressor, have we seen this driving people to suicide in our society?
I wouldn't say everybody, but it can be one of the things that will be, maybe, as you say, a stressor. And maybe some of the things that persons have said that, you know, when you listen to some of the persons who you've had to work with who unfortunately would have chosen to use that as a method of solution. Sometimes you feel stressed out, you feel like you can't provide for your family. That is sometimes one of the things that people would say.
Most importantly, when you think of what we call the psychosocial determinants of mental health, mental health, when someone gets to that point, we typically cannot attribute it to one pot on the stove. Typically, it's a few things that add up, that compound,
and that's why they got overwhelmed.
Yes.
All right, we have another caller online, so let's take that caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome. Go ahead, caller, and please listen and respond to your telephone only, please, not the television or radio. All right, so caller, we invite you to call back, but when you call, please listen on your telephone. From the time the telephone is picked up, only listen on your telephone, please, because we'd like to hear your contributions. Pearson, what is the role of guidance counselors and teachers in early intervention?
We are the first responders, really, and we do our best to make sure that we work with our children to be able to identify in them, whether we do assessments, whether we give, of course, we give them the opportunity through our guidance sessions to be able to have a first-hand psychoeducational work with them being done with them, to give them some of the tips to be aware of themselves, and some of the things that we are doing with them would encourage them to be able to pay attention to some of the signs in them, in their own selves, in their families, that will cause them to maybe, you know, figure out, okay, I'm going down this particular path. Mr. Hector was given an opportunity to get a wish list. I don't know if I'm going to get one.
Let's say the caller, I'm going to give you a wish list. In fairness, you'll get a chance to wish, but I wish to call on the next caller. So go ahead, caller. Go ahead, caller. We listening? We have another caller paying attention to their television and not to the telephone. Again, I repeat, when the phone is answered, you listen to your telephone, not your television. Ignore the television, ignore the radio, please. All right? I'm not giving you a wish yet, as yet, Pearson. But so are you referring here, in terms of this self-awareness, are these general sessions held with all students
So,
at what levels?
Yeah, so we work both at the primary and secondary school level. Our human resource does not allow us at the moment to be able to have as counselor in every primary school. So what we have is a structure of one counselor having the responsibility about 9 to 8 schools at the primary school level. So they will visit, they will do what we refer to as guidance sessions, where we address the things like that, hygiene, the myriad of topics, which would include suicide, work and helping children to understand themselves and to be able to know that the counselor is there, that if you need help, you let your teacher know that you want to speak to the counselor, and you have that pathway in terms of reporting and referral. At the secondary school level, we have a counselor for every secondary school. That is what the structure says. Unfortunately for now, that's why I was talking about the wish list, because unfortunately for now, we do not have a counselor in every secondary school at the moment. And that's one of the things that...
What is the reality? And I understand, because there's one thing with the staffing orders. And so I can go to the general hospital, and I know based on the number of beds, how many nurses we need. But I know that's not how many nurses we have. Right? So what...
Okay, so in terms of an international standard, we should have at least one counselor for every 250 students. That's what the standard is. We're not there yet. All right, and that is our reality.
So, but we're not even at one per school. So what is the division now?
So right now we have, at our secondary schools, we have about 3 or 4 secondary schools that do not have a counselor at the moment. And so the rest of them, we have counselors that have at least one. They are very large schools, like the GBSS, for example, has 2. GBSS has close to 800 and something boys.
So really they should have 4?
They should have 3. 3 or 4, exactly. And but they have 2 at the moment. So all the others would have one counselor. But we are doing our best to make sure that we try to address that from the Ministry of Education's perspective. That is something that we are really working towards, to make sure that is done, so that we will be able to seriously address the issues with the
My question to you would be, are these counselors trained?
Every single one of them up to the master's degree level.
So all of the counselors up to the master's level?
Every single one up to the master's degree. We have a new cohort that we just brought in, started at the first degree, but we have most of them now are at SGU completing the clinical psychology program, the master's in clinical psychology.
Clinical community psychology. You're forcing me to give a plug here, but all right. We have another caller online. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
I'm calling to find out if the media, let's say television and radio, can it impact the lives negatively of people who are committing suicide?
Okay, and I think I get the gist of this question is really on whether or not our media influences this act, and if the answer is yes, then how?
Inadvertently they can.
Yes.
Because media is about viewership, and so you can have a sensational headline that points to a suicide, or you can have a suicide on repeat. Right? This is where we see the copycat effect.
It's almost like the mass shootings in the school system in the US.
Yes. And so responsible reporting is important, and we did have some training in 2023 with different media houses on responsibly reporting suicides.
Okay. We have another caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Yes, good night. Hope I can get through this thing. It's good to see Brother Stroude. I worked along closely with him. I'm a counselor, psychotherapist myself. And let me just say that the Ministry of Education has been doing yeoman service over the years with counseling among schools and so on. So the Ministry of Education has the manpower, but I don't think people know that out there. Another point I want to make also is, I think Mr. Hector I think you asked Mr. Hector the question, who commits suicide? Now let me just clear that up a little. Now anyone can commit suicide. Anyone can have suicide ideation. you do not have to be specifically mentally ill. It's not a mental illness, okay? It's not described as a mental illness. Anyone can be suicidal. So you, Colin, as normal as you look, tomorrow you can go home and you can have suicidal thoughts. It's just like that. Okay, so it's not necessarily a mental illness. So I wanted to clear that up. All right. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot for that. And I think we got a distinction because while the person might be in crisis, it doesn't mean that it's a mental illness that brought them. What are some of because you touched on the numbers that we're short on, but we do have boots on the ground, and the caller just emphasized that. What are some of the reporting mechanisms for teachers, for students and friends?
Okay, so again, since our counselors are resident, especially in the secondary school, are resident at the school, the children can come to the counselors directly. We have a pathway where the school, the teachers are fully aware of they cooperate well with the counselors. Teachers refer, students refer themselves to the counselor. In all of our schools, we have a counseling room where the counselor resides, so children can discreetly come to them during their breaks. They can ask permission to go to meet the counselor. Sometimes the counselors we have structures in place where we have particular times where the children will go to meet with them. So the teachers do referrals, parents call the counselors, do referrals. The counselors, their numbers are available to parents. On a parental to PTAs, we do presentations with parents, help them to be able to identify. So we have that kind of process going forward.
Okay, we have another caller online. Good evening, caller. Welcome. Yes, caller, go ahead.
Yes, good evening. I have two questions. One for Mr. Stroude. The first one is, what is your message to parents about limiting the access to social media for children especially? And I'm sure over the last 10 years you've seen the effects of that come into your space. And then for Mr. Hector, for leaders in organizations who, of course, are not trained counselors, what are some of the clues that they should look out for in their employees that signals that something could be wrong?
Okay. So, parents, leaders in organizations.
I want to thank the caller for bringing that particular aspect in, and we have to be very careful. Nothing that is overdone, good, even if it is good, is a benefit to any human being, and that's one of the things that we have to be very careful about. So nothing's wrong with social media. Social media is not an evil thing. How it is used, however, is something that we have to be very careful about. We have instances where, unfortunately, children are using that methodology to bully each other, to taunt each other, to say very evil and ugly things to each other, and unfortunately, we have that causing or maybe lending to children feeling a sense of isolation, a sense of feeling that they are hopeless and that they are friendless. And at the age of adolescence, friends are a big deal. And so when you feel that everybody is against you or somebody puts such ugly things about you, you feel a sense of hopelessness, and you do not want to be around people, and unfortunately it can lead to that. That's one of the things that we have to pay very close attention to. I think parents must monitor, like anything. You can monitor the books they read and all. The reality is that you have to be careful about what your children are exposed to. Okay. You have to make sure that you are aware of who they are communicating with on social media, the kind of games that they are playing. Are they playing games against one another and possibly sending messages through those games for each other? We've had instances of that within the school system where they are playing games, but they are taunting each other and they are setting up fights and the rest of those things. We have instances of that. So I believe parents have to be very careful to make sure that they are aware of what and who their children are engaging with, and that's something that we really have to be careful with, because I tell parents all the time, and they get upset with me. Parents get upset with me that you are not your child's best friend. You are their parent, and parents get really upset with me because how could you say that? The truth is, a parent is not a friend. There has to be a distinction between parent and child, and too many times we find ourselves maybe possibly using the social media as parenting.
A distraction.
But we also kind of let them babysit them through that, and that's something that we have to be really careful.
Let me ask you this, because I'm known to be a fierce defender of children.
Yeah.
So you mentioned children bullying, but we also have quite a number of instances of adults bullying.
Posing as children in some cases.
No, I'm not even going games. I'm going face to face. I'm talking within our school system. We have adults within the school system, teachers and others, who make children believe that they are less than. And that too impacts them.
Of course.
What type of interventions does the ministry take to ensure that teachers are themselves self-aware, recognizing that their words can cause grievous harm?
Okay, so from the Student Support Services unit, we have begun a set of training with our teachers in terms of identifying students at risk. And part of that whole idea of identifying students at risk is also being able to be, as the teacher, how your behavior will impact a child. Because you do not know, you look at children in front of you and you don't know is possibly at risk for some of the behaviors and some of the issues that children are presenting now. And so we are taking it from that perspective, and we've done about 3 or 4 groups of teachers already. We are going to continue to do that throughout the school year, of helping teachers to identify who are the students at risk, but also as part of that training, being able to understand how your behavior affects.
Is there a reporting mechanism where either fellow teachers or students can report this type of behavior and have people sanctioned?
The reality is that the teaching profession is governed by the Education Act, and the Education Act is very clear as to how things are to be done. If a teacher has a complaint against another teacher, we have heads of departments, we have principals, we have a structure. The Ministry of Education's structure is very clearly stated in the Education Act. One of the things that I always encourage parents is that they need to be proactive to make sure if their children come home and says something has happened, don't just be careless about it. Go to the school, find out if this was the case. Address. You have to be an advocate for your children. While a child may not necessarily want to go and tell Miss or whoever it is that maybe, unfortunately, God forbid, is a teacher that may be perpetuating that type of action against a child. The child comes home, parent, you be proactive. You be advocate for your child. You go to the principal. You ask the principal to make whatever reports to the education officer. Education officer deals with the DCO, and we go up the ladder as to how these things are taken care of. The Act is very clear as to the procedures that we take.
And it's something that we should encourage, because we need the reporting.
Listen to me. We have a responsibility as parents to advocate for our children. You don't do it in a disrespectful way. You go, you ask questions. There's a leader in the school, there's a principal, and we have a responsibility to find out what happened. And I don't think anybody should be upset about a parent coming to find out. But if your parent go and you want to mash up the whole school, that's a different story. As a human being, you go and you basically ask what.
Josh, leaders in organizations. Let's get to that caller's second question.
I know exactly who that caller is.
I hope you don't know the organization they're speaking about either.
No, I don't. Truthfully, what people really need to look out for, generally, is abnormalities, deviations from a person's normal modus operandi, right? Whether it is a person is usually jolly and you see them declining, you see their mood declining, or the baseline could actually be, they might not be that jovial, and then you notice them on the higher end of the spectrum behaving a bit erratic, almost, right? Once you see an abnormality, then that's a signal to pay close attention to.
Somebody could be melancholy. That's just who they are.
Right.
But all of a sudden they become the brightest person in the world. They become, they're solving everybody's problems. In fact, one of the big signs of somebody who has already had a plan that they are already planning to execute in terms of committing, in terms of doing attempting suicide, is that they become some of the most helpful and happy people in the world, because they know tomorrow
they have a way out.
I know I ain't here.
They have a way out.
So these are people you look at them and but that's not who you are. That's not the type of personality that you are. And all of a sudden you're the most friendly person in the world. That could be a sign that you pay attention to. The changes in behavior.
And this is something that we all should be aware of.
Very much so.
Whether you're talking about your friends, and what would you advise when you observe this, as a parent, as a friend, as a colleague, as a boss?
So, interestingly, right, the reason why people who are closer to an individual, we encourage them to be more mindful, is because they are so emotionally involved that they tend to become very extreme. They tend to be forceful because they want to see this person turn around rapidly. And that inadvertently does more harm than good. Right? So be present. Make sure you keep on checking on this person, but do not be too forceful, because that can have the opposite effect.
Okay. Do we see instances where, and probably I'm not victim blaming here, but it's almost attention seeking, and sometimes people believe some of these behaviors are just that, whether it is the self-harming or the threats of suicide, really just calling attention to themselves so they dismiss it?
Based on our training, we will tell you that every report of suicidal ideation or attempt is critical unless proven otherwise. So we're not going to minimize any.
Okay. We have another caller online. So good evening, caller. Welcome.
Yes, good night. I'm just calling back to chime in on that question that was asked by the lady. When something that needs to be noted, when someone is thinking about suicide, or just before they are about to commit suicide, in their minds, all problems are solved. In other words, everything has come true, and their problems have been solved totally. So you'll have a complete change in personality and so on. Okay, the person would be a totally different person, because in their minds all their problems are solved at this point. Because once the suicide is committed, all problems are solved. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Callers, it's time for a final break, so we'll take a break and then we'll be back shortly.
Looking to shop online from your favorite stores like Amazon and Shein? With GPC Global, it's never been easier. Get your very own US address and shop from around the world. With GPC Global, you can order the latest trends and must-have items, all delivered straight to Grenada to your closest post office for your pickup. We offer the cheapest rates, and our service is reliable and quick. No more waiting for weeks for your packages. Your satisfaction is guaranteed. Join the Grenada Postal family today and start shopping smarter. Visit us online at www.grenadapostal.com or call us on 437-POST. That's 437-7678. GPC Global, your gateway to the world.
On Sunday, November the 9th from 5 p.m. at the Grenada Trade Center, Legends Promotion presents the 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert featuring the best of Grenada, along with 2 special guest artists. This edition promises to be extra special. Get ready, Grenada, to be blown with surprises at the 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert, Sunday, November the 9th, 5 p.m. Grenada Trade Center. Stay tuned to GBN for more.
Jams World is located on Halifax Street in St. George's, opposite Norm Shopping Centre and upstairs John's Boutique. It's the place to visit for all your children's clothing from 0 to adult. On sale are children's tops, pants, hats, vests, dresses, toys, and other accessories. Also blankets, hot and cold breast pads, breast pumps, car seats, strollers, walkers, playpens, footwear, pillows, hair products, and more. They're open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Go on down to Jams World on Halifax Street, St. George's, and in Hillsborough, Carriacou, or call 459-6564 or 403-6564. You will not regret you did.
Are you ready to take charge of your money, build wealth, and protect your family's legacy? Then join us on October 9th, 2025 at Radisson Grenada Beach Resort for your Financial Future 2.0, Legacy, Literacy, and Liberation, a one-day financial summit designed to break cycles, build wealth, and leave a lasting legacy. You'll gain real-life budgeting hacks, a money mindset reboot, steps to create generational wealth, and practical tips on investing, estate planning, insurance, health, and business finance, all from expert speakers who know how to turn knowledge into action. With 2 inspirational keynotes, 3 powerful panel discussions, and 6 breakout sessions, you will leave with your personalized action plan for success. Don't wait. Secure your seat today. Tickets are EC $350 at disruptiveleadershipconference.com/YFF. Your Financial Future 2.0. Your next chapter starts here.
Grenada. Exciting news. Oasis Pet and Garden has expanded. In addition to our existing location, we're now open at our new location, Melville Street, St. George's, now serving you at 2 locations for even more convenience.
At Oasis Pet and Garden, we bring you the best products at the best prices nationwide. Check out our garden department for the best quality Pro-Mix potting soil, vegetable seeds, and seedling trays, cocoa peat, liquid fertilizer, granular fertilizers, and more. Our livestock and livestock products are the highest quality and the best prices in Grenada.
Viewers and listeners, we're breaking the silence as we observe this month, September, as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Josh, share with us some of the harm that can be caused by us not putting this bright spotlight on mental health in general and certainly suicide prevention in particular.
I like the idea of the bright spotlight, and I would compare these issues to mushrooms. Mushrooms grow in darkness, and a mushroom will destroy a wooden structure silently. The moment light hits mushrooms, they die. And I would say that's how stigma operates. Mm-hmm. And we maintain the taboo when we do not speak about particular issues. The more we talk about them, then we normalize them. And so the silence and the lack of the spotlight really causes people to continue suffering in silence because they don't see any normalcy around seeking help or speaking up.
And they also sometimes believe they're alone. They're the only person going through this. It is a unique situation to them, etc. Not recognizing that there are hundreds of us suffering from the very same.
While we sit in the same rooms, while we smile and laugh at each other over dinner, we suffer in silence, right? But it is important for us to just shine light as much as possible on mental health to discourage people remaining isolated.
Pearson, some of the other reasons why this importance of breaking the stigma is so critical.
Normalizing seeking help. We have to recognize that it's okay to say I need help. We have to recognize that it is not weakness to say that I am hurting. We are destroying ourselves and our bodies with the stress hormones, the cortisol, and all of those things that are being put into our systems when we don't speak up, when we don't say what's happening, when we don't take an opportunity to express what's happening in our bodies. We are making ourselves sick. And I think you mentioned, or maybe before we came on, you mentioned about the psychosomatic. Listen, so many of the issues that we have in terms of our health has to do with where we are mentally. If we are not going to address the mental, the things that are between here and here, then we are going to create more and more problems for ourselves. Right. And I think that is one of the biggest issues, that we are destroying ourselves maybe even more, maybe not as quick if we were to use those type of methodologies that do it quick, the quick fix that we think is a fix. But we are hurting ourselves by continually not expressing the way we feel, not opening up about what is happening with us. We continue to let cortisol wash our systems and poison us, and that's the reality that we have.
Josh, is there a move to expand the community-based accommodations that we currently have?
Absolutely, and that move involves, in the first instance, training the people who are already there. So we do not want doctors to become psychologists. We don't want nurses to become psychologists. Right. But training them up just a little bit increases their understanding as far as mental health is concerned, and prepares them to distinguish between mental issues and mental illnesses. Right. So that even when they are about to consider writing a referral to the psychiatric hospital, they can recognize whether or not it's needed. And that person may just need to have a conversation to be stabilized and sent home, right, which eases the burden on the system.
Right. And what resonates is the bellies closed in the psychiatric hospital. That resonates with me. Pearson, how do we go about one? But before I ask that question, how do we go about bridging the gap between our schools and our clinicians?
Well, the truth is, since we have some of the clinicians in schools, we have that. But of course, what we do is that we have a referral pathway from our counselors to the psychiatric hospital, to the same monthly clinics that that Mr. Hector would have spoken about. We make referrals. One of the things that we have to make sure that we pay attention to, especially from our perspective of working with children, that we separate what might be psychosis from what is neurosis. Right. And we really do our best to make sure that it's really on the severe cases that we do those type of referrals, where we've exhausted all of the. So we have a structure within the system where we have the counselors at the school system, we have supervisors who are people who have experience with the work and would have been in the service a little longer in most cases. And so if a counselor, for example, in the school system says, hey, listen, I think this was a bit too much, you refer to his supervisor. If that supervisor does not feel competent or have worked with them, and they refer to the office where that might come to me. And if at all we really see that there is something that we need outside of that, then we refer to the mental clinics, we refer to the psychiatric unit. We may call Mr. Hector, any of the persons who we work with within the mental hospital to do that. So that is how that's the path that we follow. We do our best to make sure that we deal with what are the issues at the school level. If not, the supervisors take it. If not, it comes to central ministry, and then from there we refer upward.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do we go go about building a culture of early intervention? So you can go Field of Dreams. If they build it, they'll come. So you have the engagement with your physicians, with your nursing staff, etc., and you get them to make that distinction. But at the end of the day, it's dependent upon people. It depends upon reporting. It is dependent upon the reporting, whether it's self-reporting or otherwise. How do you go about building that culture of early intervention?
Before Mr. Hector goes on the macro level, let me build a bit to the micro level, because that's one of the reasons why, that's one of the, should I say, one of the pluses of having counselors in the school system.
Right.
When I look back, the counseling department expanded into having a full-fledged of 42 counselors, from having 2 counselors in Ministry of Education.
I remember when it was 1.
Right, okay, right. There was 1, then eventually there was 2. So in 2002, it moved to about 15, and by about Hurricane Ivan 2004, 2005, it expanded to about 42 in that area there. What we've noticed is that those very same students who are in the system are now parents, and they are very much aware that they are counselors in the school. That has brought a sense of awareness as to the psychosocial interactions that are available. And I think us having that type of intervention at the school level we now have a population of people who are now becoming parents, who are fully aware of the services that we have in the school system, and they are the ones who will call and say, Mr. Stroude, you're still there? I want you to see my parent, and those kind of things like that, and we refer. So that is one of the things at a micro level that we have. Actually having the counseling system has contributed in a lot of cases to persons being aware of some of the services that are available, because we have had those counselors in the school system since about 2002. Josh? Could go macro now.
2 things, Colin. The first is, I like to say that repetition is a formidable foe. So constantly repeating the messages that encourage people to seek help early. People may get tired, and then eventually they just accept it. Okay, that's how it goes. So repetition is very important. But secondly, recognizing the parity of medical care and mental health care would mean that as we forge ahead and we finally achieve full integration, there will be no mental health day in the community clinic, because that day itself becomes stigmatized, because you see people going to the clinic on the crazy days, right? If people can show up at the clinic, receive their mental health care discreetly, and go back home, then that change any day of the week, that changes everything.
So that's the capacity building that is critical, and of course the equipping of the people who are there now to be able to triage and make determinations. We have another call online, our final caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Good night once again. Let me point to one of the essentials of the whole issues, and I want to stress on this, sir. The financial power of the home, the adult. You see, cost is high at all levels: the food, the books, the clothing, the shoe, whatever, and it brings extreme pressure onto the adult, the parent, who are struggling. And then that pressure is reverted back to the student. The needs are not being met. And so there is compounded stress at that level. I want this for my school, I want this, and I just can't get it. Mom is not in a position to give me. Dad is not in a position to, because Dad is under the same financial pressure. So I would like to hear more of the financial aspect of dealing with this matter. Financial power will change a lot of these things, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. If I can just turn it a little bit here, because I don't believe we're ever satisfied. So even if we have more, there is more to have, and therefore we're chasing sometimes things that we can't have. So I think really what is important is a coping mechanism. How do you cope in the face of stress? Because stress will exist, whether it's finances, whether it's relationship, whether it's whatever, stress exists.
It is.
How do you cope?
I was kind of starting to, I heard the caller and I was beginning to, okay, one, we have to be very careful. So what the caller is saying is there's legitimacy in what the caller is saying. If persons do not have and they cannot take care of their children, the government has done for years now. We've had uniform program, we've had school book program. So there are things that government has been doing. But as you rightly said, you give more and there is always going to be a need for more. The truth is, I think we need to help our children especially to understand that not everything we have or thing that we need or want is necessarily going to be something that we can have. I think it is okay for parents to tell children no sometimes, to learn that no is an answer that they can get. We have to be very careful that we do not teach people to be dependent. We have to also be careful that we are not causing persons to get to the place where they are. You know what one person said to me one time? We are growing up our children too soft. They can't take pressure anymore. And while I kind of hear maybe I think the person may have been coming from too much of a tough place, I get what they're saying. That if we teach our children to be for every single thing that they want that we give them, we may be setting them up for failure in the future. But I'm not saying that we're not supposed to take care of our children and to give them food and clothes for school and books and so. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about we have to be very careful that we are not teaching our children to be of the mindset that everything that I want, I must have, and I must have it now. If we do that, we are setting them up for failure, and they won't be able to take pressure.
Just, Josh, I heard your wish list, and we certainly recognize some of the things that have been done. But if my information is correct, suicide remains an offense. Not suicide. Attempted suicide remains an offense on our law books.
Yes.
Is this helpful? Does this signal that we have a true appreciation for the situation?
That requires a whole program in and of itself, right, Colin? But the truth is, we are definitely interested in having that removed. Simply being, question, when was the last time you heard someone being charged for attempted suicide? Even the police are very compassionate and they assist at times in transporting people to the appropriate care. What that means is that it's really just ornamental at this point, and it can be removed simply because these people need help. Once a person has gotten to that point, they need help, and so charging them on the top of that it's going to make matters significantly worse.
Okay. And if you can, because we're coming to the close, so it's not your final comments yet, but just share with us some of the things that the ministry has done in order to commemorate this Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and some of the things that will be in the pipeline.
So we had a church service on Sunday morning. It usually begins with a church service, the first Sunday in the month. Then Sunday nights, 7th, we also had a candlelight walk and prayer vigil from the Esplanade Mall to the Tantine Netball Court, which concluded with a ceremony and prayers. And then we have this going on tonight, right? That was on the ticket as well. Then we introduced a concept called the Brushes of Hope, and we called for artists to submit paintings that honor the lives of those who have died by suicide, as well as instill hope or portray resilience. And we've begun to get some paintings, and we want to actually have what's called the Hope Gallery, where we can showcase all the artwork. We've gotten some so far, but I just want to encourage people to keep on sending in more, because we have not gotten enough to have the gallery just yet. Right, so please, artists near and far, submit your artwork to the Ministry of Mental Health. Our office is in Archibald Avenue, and you can do so by today's the 8th. you can do so by the 15th.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So that is one. Anything else planned for the rest of the month?
Yes, we also have 2 community outreach sessions planned. One is in SAS, that would be on the 15th of the month, and the other at PBC on the 11th, both starting at 6:30 p.m.
Okay.
And we're inviting people to come to, of course, hear about suicide prevention awareness, as well as we want to begin the discussion to hear from the population as far as decriminalization is concerned, because you know, once you start talking decriminalization, it is important to hear what the population has to say.
Right.
These things can't just be done without consultation.
Right. Okay. Pearson.
The round table as well.
Oh yes, and we do have a round table discussion, which is carded for some point next week. We don't have an exact date just yet, and on this round table discussion, I will be there. Mr. Stroude will also be there as well, our Minister, Honorable Delma Thomas, the head of the psychosocial unit in the Ministry of Social Development, Mrs. Kizzy Matthew Clarence, Dr. Niels Chaitan, and we're also going to have someone with lived experience, Mr. Dexter Mitchell, who will show up to share his story to instill hope.
Okay, all right. Pearson, your closing comments, but I would want you to incorporate your wish list. You complained that you didn't get your chance to. So your wish list and closing comments.
Okay. No, my wish list is, of course, we need some more boots on the ground, and as I said, we're working towards that. So I'm good. We're working towards getting there, and because we need to make sure that the children have available the counseling.
No, but in truth and fact, are you therefore saying that government should set aside a number of scholarships annually in order to have people trained and return to serve, because we are at a stage where the advice is 1 for every 250 children. We have 1 for every 9 schools at the primary level. We have 3 secondary schools without, and even those with, they don't have, there isn't sufficient staffing, because we need 3.5 for GBSS, as you said, so that's 4, right? We need 2 for PBC based on the numbers. I don't know if they have 2. And if we go to SAS, I mean, we go from school to school. So really and truly, this is probably one of the steps that you need to advocate for.
Yeah, and we have. There's something that there's been discussion about that. So again, it is something that the ministry is in the process of trying to address. So I know my seniors are working towards that. So I was just teasing the wish list, but yeah, really the truth is that we need to have more boots on the ground, and of course, that's one of the things that's one of the reasons why we encourage. Anytime we have any of our staff come in with the first degree, we try to make sure we get them to do that community psychology master's degree with SGU, because it has proven to be a really useful master's degree. The persons who have done it have really come back to us. They've come back to us and they are implementing excellent work. So it's proven to be. So I'm pitching.
I guess kudos to Dr. Arlette Hill, who was critical in designing the program.
She herself was together. We were part of the beginnings of that, and we really appreciate her and Doc. They were big.
Amoello
Marshall, yeah, right. He was there, so they were really big on that, and we really thank them for that. So I think I forgot the other question you asked me.
It's your closing comments.
Yes. Really, the truth is, I want to reiterate that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. That we need to encourage each other to make sure that the decisions that we make them cognizant of the fact that when we take these type of permanent, or we address these temporary situations in a permanent way, that we are not just affecting ourselves, and there are family members that we are leaving behind. Sometimes we leave children, sometimes we leave hurting parents. The truth is that no suicide has happened without leaving scars behind. And so anybody who's out there and maybe contemplating, please remember that your actions, if you go that way, has implications, not just for yourself, but for people within your life, people you may not even know care about you. So like we would have said earlier on, you are not the only person hurting in the way that you are hurting. There are persons who are just like you. Seek help, ask for help. It's a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. And we will do our best to see how we can help each other.
Okay, Josh, your opportunity for closing comments, but please incorporate, because Pearson said seek help. Is there a hotline that we can call? What's that number? How can one seek that help without necessarily having to go into an office or get a location? That along with your closing comments.
So the truth is, a hotline is something that we do have to set up, but this brand new ministry, we have so much going on already. We do not yet have a hotline, but we would be pleased when we can finally say to the public, call or send a WhatsApp message to this number or to these numbers, because that is critical. Because we know that all it takes at that moment is a distraction, is a message or a call that, or a conversation that would cause a person to deviate from the destructive path that they're on. My closing comment would really be that it's important for us to recognize that we all have embedded within us what's called a life instinct. The life instinct kicks in when people begin suicide, and the evidence shows that their reflexes cause them to try to stop whatever they initiated, because the physical body wants to live, okay, and it is going to do so subconsciously. So we have to train our minds now to want to live as well. For starters, it is now 2025. I don't know what or who I will be in 2030, and what I'm going through right now could be long gone and all the way behind me. We have to allow ourselves to become and to see what life has in store as well. We also have things to contribute to our communities. Let's not rob the communities of our contributions.
Thank you very much, Josh, Hector, Mr. Pearson, Stroude, for sharing on this critically important issue. To you, ladies and gentlemen, for spending the last 90 minutes with us. I think some of the critical messages: do not suffer in silence. Utilize the resources that are available. Talk to someone. And if you see abnormal behavior, point it out, not just to the individual, but to professionals who can intervene. And in closing, I like Josh's closing, in that you don't know what your duty in the future will be. Some of us may fail at a particular task, which allows us to be redirected to contribute at significantly greater levels. That failure is a lesson to succeed. Embrace it as such. Be resilient. Seek the help you need, and let us break the silence. Let us not have this stigma attached to seeking help and combating mental illness be a part of us. So this is September. This is Suicide Prevention Suicide Awareness Prevention Month. Let's embrace it so that we no longer have to have a month, because we are moving forward as resilient people. Thank you so very much for being a part of this Monday evening, and I look forward to being with you in the next 6 days, 22.5 hours. I'm Colin Dowe. Take good care.